guys, it's Austin back with Dream Rotary. What I'm going to show you today is pretty awesome. I was able to get this first gen here that I've been working on for almost 3 years running, and it did drive. But we'll get into that later in another video. What actually ended up happening was that I got a Mikuni PHH 44 side draft carb for this car. And so when I got that, I got the upper intake manifold with it, and then I got a lower intake manifold that came with it, which must have been for an S4 engine or a GSLSE REGI engine. And long story short, ended up getting it running, and that's a big deal to me. It took me, like I said, almost 3 years to get this up and going. The day that we were kind of screwing around with it, I had my brother out here with me, and I was like, okay, it's time to give it a shot. So I throw everything together, the batteries in it, and I tried cranking it. Cranked it 3 or 4 times, wouldn't fire. And I'm like, all right, I kind of get out, and I'm like, I'm gonna check timing because I might have stabbed the distributor wrong, or I'm gonna check, fuel. I needed to check everything. And so I get out and I sprayed some carb cleaner in there just to make sure the carb was cleaned out or whatever. And it had fuel in it, it had the fuel pump worked. I could see that it was making pressure on the gauge. And so I get out to go check it, and I have my brother jump in the car. I'm like, okay, just turn it over so I can check timing. Didn't think of, pulling spark plugs, didn't pull anything, just left it. And he hit the key, and I swear as soon as he hit that key, it just instantly fired right up. And in my stupidity, I didn't catch that the rocker, rocker roller, whatever you'd call it, for the carb had opened about, I don't know, not even an eighth of a turn, but it was enough so that when he accidentally started it, fired, and it was giving it, I don't know, 4,000 RPM at least right away, just and as soon as it fired off on the key, I freaked out. And I guess they could hear me scream in the house over the sound of the motor, and the motor was on just an open header at that point. And so he ends up freaking out in the car. He throws his hands up. I'm like, shut it off. And so he gets in there, he gets his head back together and shuts it off. It only did it for maybe a second and a half at most. And we're both like, oh crap, like that was a big deal. I'm like, all right, well, it did run for a second, I'm not expecting it to run anymore. So I tell him I'll turn the fuel on this time because I have my fuel pump on a dedicated switch in this car. And so he turns fuel on, cranks it over, fires right up. I'm like, what the heck? So it ran, and so we sat out here and tested it, and oil pressure was good, the coolant temp worked, my fans worked, the fuel pump worked. I mean, everything worked. So I thought, oh, well, let's go take it for a rip. And so we get done kind of testing or whatever, and the clutch worked, the brakes worked, everything worked. Took it for a rip, and when I did, it was breaking up when you try to give it any rev, about 4,000 RPM specifically, anything over that. As soon as you tried to rev it, the wideband would go into the 8s. It was running super rich. Like, what the heck is going on here? And so we brought it back home. I screwed with some of the adjustment screws on the carb and brought it back out for like another 1.5 mile run or something. And so I put I think it was like 4.5 miles on it total the first time I drove it, and drove it around, came back, adjusted these screws, drove it around again, came back. It was still running super rich. I'm like, all right, so I should probably pull out the jets, check the jetting, go over that kind of stuff. And when I pulled them out, it was missing a main jet. So basically that, the emulsion tube, I think, was dumping straight 100% fuel into it as soon as you got over the idle jet or whatever it is. And so it was running straight fuel. So at least it wasn't running lean, but it was running super, super rich. And so I had to order a main jet. Those came in. I put them in this car and went and took it for another drive. And that's when all these problems happened. So at this point, I'm going to cut. So check the next video that I'm going to post. It's going to be on what happens when you mount a 13B motor in a 12A car without taking into consideration the larger size motor. Sucks, but luckily I didn't break anything. So check that video out here. You'll see kind of what happened, and then I'm going to do another video after that of how I was able to fix it. Thanks again for watching, guys. I appreciate it. This is Austin with Dream Men Rotary. Keep on rotating, fellas.